They laughed at her shoes. They mocked her silence. They recorded her pain. And not one of them knew that the future of their empire was standing right in front of them, listening. If you believe respect should never depend on skin color or status, subscribe now and type dignity in the comments. Tell us what city you're watching from, because this story will change how you see power, respect, and consequences forever. What happens next will cost one family everything they've ever known. The invitation arrived in a matte black envelope with gold lettering. No logo. No flashy seal. Just a name typed neatly in the center. Ms. Naomi Brooks. Naomi held the card in her hands for a long moment. At 46 years old, she had received invitations from presidents, global banks, and tech summits that shaped the world. But this one felt different. This one carried the weight of history, both theirs and hers. Tonight's event was hosted by the Harrington Circle, an old elite investment family whose wealth predated modern banking. They were powerful, private, and desperate, though only Naomi knew the last part. Their carefully constructed image of success hid a terrifying truth. They were drowning in debt, hemorrhaging money, and betting everything on one final lifeline. The party wasn't just a party. It was the celebration dinner for a pending $5 billion strategic partnership, a deal that would either rescue the Harrington empire or quietly bury it forever. And Naomi Brooks was the final decision maker. The only person on earth whose signature could save them or destroy them. No one at that party knew her face. They only knew a name whispered in boardrooms with equal parts fear and respect. But tonight, they were about to learn exactly who Naomi Brooks really was. Naomi Brooks did not come from money. She came from a two-room apartment above a closed-down grocery store in South Philadelphia. From a mother who worked night shifts cleaning offices she would never own. From a childhood where silence was survival and excellence was the only shield against a world that tried to convince her she was worth less. Her mother, Grace Brooks, had one rule: let your work speak so loud they can't ignore you. Those words became Naomi's life philosophy. She built Helix Meridian Group from nothing. No investors, no inheritance, no safety net. Just intelligence, patience, strategy, and a refusal to be small in a world that demanded she shrink herself. By age 46, Helix Meridian controlled infrastructure development, energy logistics, and financial systems across 3 continents. Her company built the roads that connected cities, the power grids that kept nations running, the technology platforms that managed billions in global trade. Net worth, $38.6 billion. Liquidity ready for deployment, $5 billion in cash, waiting for the right opportunity. And tonight, she was deciding who deserved it. The Harringtons didn't know that 15 years ago, when Naomi was building her first project, she had approached their family for partnership funding. She'd presented a brilliant proposal, backed by data and projections that later proved accurate down to the penny. Victor Harrington had looked at her across his mahogany desk and said, "Ms. Brooks, we appreciate your enthusiasm, but the Harrington Circle invests in established names. Perhaps try something more realistic for someone in your position." The rejection letter that followed was polite but clear. They didn't invest in people like her. Naomi had kept that letter, framed it in her office as a reminder. Every time she closed a $1 billion deal, every time she expanded into a new continent, every time someone doubted her, she looked at that letter and remembered. She didn't build her empire for revenge. She built it because excellence was non-negotiable. But tonight, karma was coming due, and she was hand-delivering it. The venue sat on a cliff overlooking the ocean, a restored colonial estate turned private event hall. Floodlights illuminated white stone walls. Classical music floated through the cool evening air. This was where power celebrated itself, where deals worth billions were sealed with handshakes and champagne. Naomi arrived alone. No entourage, no visible security detail, no designer labels screaming for attention. She wore a midnight blue dress, simple, clean, elegant. Flat shoes for comfort, her natural hair pulled back in a low bun. Minimal jewelry, just a watch and simple earrings. She looked like someone who belonged exactly where she was. Confident, successful, arriving to attend an important business event. But the moment she stepped out of her car, everything shifted. The valet, a young man in his 20s wearing a crisp uniform, glanced at her. Then past her. His eyes searched behind her for someone else, someone who matched his mental image of what a guest at this event should look like. Service staff enter from the rear, he said flatly, already turning away. Naomi paused, letting the words settle. She'd heard versions of this her entire life. I'm attending the Harrington event, she said calmly. He turned back, frowning. His eyes scanned her outfit with lazy judgment, noting her flat shoes, her simple dress, her lack of obvious wealth markers. Ma'am, guests are already inside. The service entrance is. I have an invitation. Naomi handed him the matte black card with gold lettering. He took it reluctantly, studying it longer than necessary, as if checking for forgery. Then he sighed heavily, like she was creating a problem for him. I'll need to check on this. He walked away with her invitation. And didn't return. 5 minutes passed, then 10. The ocean wind picked up, brushing against Naomi's bare arms. The temperature was dropping, but she stood still, watching, learning, remembering every detail. Other guests arrived during her wait. All white, all confident, all waved through without hesitation. A couple in matching designer outfits stepped out of a Bentley. The valet practically sprinted to open their door. Mr. and Mrs. Wellington, so wonderful to see you. Please, right this way. Warm greetings, compliments on their car, their outfits, their presence. The valet held the door open personally, escorting them inside with a smile. Naomi stood alone in the cold. Still waiting. A woman in a fur coat arrived, laughing loudly on her phone. She tossed her keys at the valet without looking at him. He caught them with a grin. Have a wonderful evening, Ms. Patterson. No invitation checked, no questions asked, just automatic acceptance based on appearance alone. Eventually, after 23 minutes, a security supervisor appeared. A tall man with a radio clipped to his belt and an expression of mild annoyance. He looked Naomi up and down one more time, clearly still uncertain. You're cleared, he said finally, as if granting a tremendous favor. No apology for the wait. No acknowledgement of the cold. No recognition that every other guest had walked straight through. Naomi entered the hall quietly, her mind cataloging everything. Every slight, every assumption, every moment of disrespect, not for anger, but for understanding. She needed to know exactly who these people were before making her final decision. The main hall sparkled like a jewel box. Crystal chandeliers hung from 20-foot ceilings, casting rainbow light across white marble floors. Gold accents adorned every surface. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the moonlit ocean. A string quartet played in the corner. Servers circulated with trays of champagne and delicate appetizers that probably cost more per bite than most people's weekly groceries. This was wealth, old wealth, the kind that never questioned its own existence. Conversation slowed as Naomi entered. Heads turned, eyes assessed her from head to toe. Not with curiosity about who she might be. With calculation about whether she belonged. The verdict was instant, silent, unanimous. She didn't. Conversations resumed, but now she was the unspoken subject. Whispers behind champagne flutes, raised eyebrows, knowing glances exchanged between guests who shared an understanding. Someone had made a mistake letting her in. At the center of the room, commanding attention like royalty, stood the Harrington family. Margaret Harrington, 63, matriarch and social architect of the family's image. She wore diamonds that could fund a hospital wing. Her silver hair was styled in perfect waves. Her smile was sharp, her tongue sharper. She decided who mattered in their social circle, and her decisions were absolute. Victor Harrington, 68, the aging patriarch. Once a brilliant investor, now a desperate man hiding catastrophic financial losses behind a facade of old money confidence. His tuxedo was impeccable, but his eyes held the haunted look of someone watching their legacy crumble. Evan Harrington, 34, the entitled son. Loud confidence masking empty substance. He'd never built anything, never earned anything, never faced real consequences. The world had always bent to accommodate him, so he'd learned to demand it bend. Lydia Harrington, 31, the daughter. Polished cruelty wrapped in charm. She'd perfected the art of the devastating compliment, the smile that preceded the knife. Beautiful, educated, and completely convinced that her family's name made her superior to ordinary people. They noticed Naomi immediately. 4 pairs of eyes locked onto her like predators spotting something that didn't belong in their territory. And instantly, without a word exchanged between them, they decided exactly what she was worth. Nothing. Margaret tilted her head toward her daughter and whispered, but loudly enough for nearby guests to hear. "Is that someone's assistant? Did one of our guests bring help to the party?" A few chuckles rippled through the crowd. Heads turned to look at Naomi again, this time with understanding. That explained it. She was staff. That made sense. Naomi felt every eye, heard every whisper. The familiar weight of being seen as less than human settled on her shoulders. But she didn't react. She simply walked deeper into the room, moving toward the bar with quiet dignity. She'd learned long ago that silence could be power. Let them talk. Let them reveal themselves. She was gathering information. The bartender, a young man in a crisp white shirt, saw her approaching. He started to reach for a glass, then hesitated. His eyes flicked toward the Harrington family, seeking guidance. This happened often at events like this, silent communication about who deserved service. Margaret caught his glance and shook her head once. A tiny movement, barely perceptible, but absolutely clear. The bartender straightened. "I'm sorry, staff beverages are available in the back kitchen area." Naomi's throat was dry from standing outside in the cold. "Just water, please." Margaret's voice cut across the space between them, smooth as silk and sharp as glass. "Not tonight, dear. This is for our invited guests." The word, invited, carried particular weight. The implication was clear. You're not really invited. You're tolerated. Laughter rippled through the nearby crowd. Soft, polite, devastating. The kind of laughter that said everyone was in on the joke except the victim. Phones lifted, at first subtly, then more openly. This was content, entertainment, a story to share with friends tomorrow about the awkward moment at the Harrington party when someone who didn't belong tried to get service. Evan Harrington, drink in hand and already flushed with alcohol, saw his opportunity. He raised his glass high, his voice booming across the hall. "Ladies and gentlemen, I think we have a situation. Looks like someone wandered into the wrong dream tonight." More laughter, louder now. People were gathering, forming a loose circle, watching the show. Some looked uncomfortable but said nothing. Most seemed entertained. Someone whispered, loud enough to be heard, "Is this part of some charity awareness theme?" "Very method." Another voice replied, "If it is, it's a bit much." "I'm uncomfortable." But nobody moved to help. Nobody questioned the Harringtons. Nobody asked Naomi who she was or why she was there. Naomi stood still, absorbing everything. Every insult landed, every stare burned, every assumption about her worth based solely on her appearance registered in her mind with perfect clarity. But she stayed, because she was not there for comfort. She was there for truth. She needed to see exactly who these people were before making a decision that would affect thousands of lives. Minutes stretched into an eternity. Guests brushed past her shoulder without apology, as if she were furniture. A woman in a glittering gold gown actually bumped into her, looked annoyed, and moved away without a word, as if Naomi had been in her way. "She really thinks she belongs," the woman muttered to her companion. "Confidence is cute when it's misplaced," came the reply. Naomi's feet ached in her flat shoes from standing so long. Her throat was painfully dry. Her chest tightened, not with anger, but with recognition. She had seen this before. In schools where teachers assumed she was less capable. In boardrooms where men spoke over her. In rooms where power mistook cruelty for superiority and silence for permission. This wasn't new, but it never stopped hurting. Lydia Harrington approached, holding a glass of deep red wine. Her face was arranged in an expression of rehearsed kindness, the look of someone performing generosity for an audience. "Oh, you poor thing, you must be exhausted standing here," Lydia said sweetly, her voice carrying to the nearby crowd. "You look like you need this more than I do. Here." She extended the glass toward Naomi. Naomi hesitated. Every instinct screamed warning, but refusing would create a scene, would give them ammunition to claim she was rude, difficult, aggressive. So she reached for the glass. At the last second, Lydia stepped back. Naomi's hand closed on empty air. Her balance shifted forward. Lydia's sudden movement left her stumbling. The wine, as if on cue, spilled. Red liquid arced through the air in slow motion, splashing across Naomi's midnight blue dress. The cold shock of it spread across her chest, down her stomach, staining the fabric dark. The room exploded. Laughter erupted like fireworks. Applause. Cheers. Recording phones held high, capturing every angle. This was the moment everyone would remember, would share, would laugh about for years. Oh no, Lydia gasped dramatically, hand flying to her mouth in perfect fake shock. She's so clumsy. I tried to help her and she just lunged at me. Margaret shook her head with theatrical disappointment. This is exactly why we have standards. Why we have protocols. Why we screen guests properly. Victor Harrington stepped forward, his face stern. With authority, he gestured sharply at the security guards stationed near the doors. Remove her, now, before she ruins something actually valuable. The words hung in the air. Before she ruins something valuable. As if Naomi herself had no value. As if she were a thing, not a person. Naomi was on the floor now. Wine-stained, humiliated, surrounded by a circle of wealthy people who saw her suffering as entertainment. Camera flashes lit up her face. Videos captured her from every angle. Someone was probably already posting this on social media with a clever caption. This was the moment they'd been building toward all evening. The final humiliation. The definitive proof that she didn't belong in their world. But something in Naomi's expression stopped the security guards mid-step. She wasn't crying. She wasn't screaming. She wasn't running away in shame. She was standing up, slowly, deliberately, like a queen rising from a throne. She straightened her wine-stained dress with careful dignity, brushed a strand of hair from her face, lifted her head and met the eyes of everyone watching. Her face held no rage, no tears, no defeat, only certainty. The laughter began to falter. Something in her calm was unsettling. This wasn't how the victim was supposed to act. Naomi reached into her small clutch purse and pulled out her phone. It rang once, right on cue, as if the universe itself was providing the perfect dramatic timing. She answered it, her voice clear and professional, carrying across the now quieting room. Ms. Brooks speaking. The voice on the other end was her chief financial officer, David Chen. Calm, professional, efficient. Ms. Brooks, the $5 billion transfer to Harrington Circle is ready for final authorization. Do we proceed with tonight's scheduled deployment? The laughter behind her continued, but softer now. Some people were starting to listen. Starting to wonder why this woman was taking a business call at a party, why she sounded so composed, why that name sounded vaguely familiar. Naomi looked at the Harrington family. All four of them were watching her now, confusion beginning to crack through their smug superiority. And then she spoke the words that would change everything. No, David, cancel it, all of it. The room didn't go silent all at once. It was more like a wave, starting with the people closest to Naomi and spreading outward as her words registered. Conversations died mid-sentence. Laughter choked off. The string quartet kept playing for a few awkward measures before the conductor noticed the change and signaled them to stop. $5 billion. Cancel it. All of it. David Chen's voice came through the phone speaker, professional confusion evident even in those few words. I'm sorry, Ms. Brooks, could you please confirm? You want to cancel the Harrington Circle partnership? The entire $5 billion infrastructure investment? Naomi's eyes never left Victor Harrington's face. She watched the color drain from his cheeks, watched his confident smile crack and crumble, watched the exact moment he realized who she was. Yes, David, terminate the partnership agreement, cancel the fund transfer, pull all proposed investments in Harrington Holdings, including the real estate portfolio stabilization, the debt restructuring package, and the liquidity injection. I want everything dissolved within the hour. Understood, Ms. Brooks. I'll notify legal and finance immediately. Do you need anything else? Send me the cancellation confirmation when it's complete. And David, make sure every investment firm in our network knows the Harrington Circle is no longer under Helix Meridian consideration. She ended the call and slipped her phone back into her purse. The movement was casual, unhurried, as if she'd just ordered coffee, not canceled $5 billion. Victor Harrington's champagne glass slipped from his fingers. It hit the marble floor with a crystal-sharp crash that echoed through the silent hall like a gunshot. Expensive champagne spread across the white marble, bubbles fizzing and dying. Wait, he breathed, the word barely audible. What did you say your name was? Naomi reached into her purse again and pulled out a business card. Not printed on paper. This was black titanium with platinum engraving that caught the chandelier light. Each card cost more to produce than the average person's monthly rent. She held it out to Victor Harrington. He took it with shaking hands, his fingers trembling so badly he almost dropped it. The card read, Naomi Brooks, founder and CEO, Helix Meridian Group, $38.6 billion global infrastructure and energy. Victor read it once, then again, then a third time, as if the words might rearrange themselves into something less devastating. His face went from pale to gray to almost green. Margaret snatched the card from her husband's hand. This is ridiculous. This is some kind of prank. There's no way that this person is Naomi Brooks. Naomi Brooks is a serious businessperson, not someone who shows up to parties dressed like. Like what, Margaret? Naomi's voice cut through the air like a blade. Say it. Finish that sentence. Tell everyone what you really mean. Margaret's mouth opened and closed. For the first time in decades, she had no words. Evan Harrington let out a nervous laugh, the kind people make when reality is fracturing around them. Okay. This is insane. Dad, tell her this is insane. We have documentation. We have signed agreements. She can't just cancel a $5 billion deal because of some misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? Naomi turned to face him fully. Is that what you call what happened tonight? A misunderstanding? You told an entire room of people that I wandered into the wrong dream. Your sister spilled wine on me deliberately while your guests recorded it for entertainment. Your mother denied me water. Your father ordered security to remove me like trash. Where exactly is the misunderstanding? She pulled out her phone again and swiped through to a video. Actually, let me clear up any confusion. This is footage from your own security cameras. I had my team access it 10 minutes ago. She held up the phone, showing clear video of the entire evening. The valet refusing her entry. The 23 minutes waiting in the cold while white guests walked straight through. Margaret's head shake denying her service at the bar. Lydia's deliberate wine spill. Every humiliating moment captured in high definition. This footage is currently being sent to every business partner, investor, and media contact in my network. By morning, every person who matters in global finance will know exactly how the Harrington family treats people they consider beneath them. Lydia found her voice, though it came out high and panicked. You can't do that. That's blackmail. We'll sue you for defamation. With what money? Naomi asked simply. Please, go ahead and sue me. I'd love to see your financial records presented in court. Would you like me to tell everyone here what I know about your family's actual financial situation? Victor's face went from gray to white. Don't. But Naomi was done being silent. Done protecting people who'd spent the evening trying to destroy her dignity. Ladies and gentlemen, she addressed the room, her voice clear and carrying. Let me share something the Harrington family doesn't want you to know. This beautiful party you're attending. It's a funeral dressed up as a celebration. She began walking through the room, and the crowd parted before her like water. People who'd been laughing at her minutes ago now couldn't meet her eyes. The Harrington circle is completely, catastrophically bankrupt. They've been hiding losses for 7 years. Bad investments in collapsing markets. Gambling debts that Victor accumulated in private. Properties mortgaged far beyond their value. The family empire that everyone thinks is worth billions is actually worth less than nothing. They're drowning in debt, and tonight was supposed to be their salvation. Margaret's voice was desperate now, all pretense of superiority gone. Ms. Brooks, please, we can discuss this privately. Why privately? Naomi asked. You humiliated me publicly. You made sure every phone in this room captured my degradation. Why should your consequences be private? She stopped walking and turned to face the Harrington family directly. The $5 billion deal you were celebrating tonight. That was a rescue package. My company was going to inject capital into your holdings, stabilize your real estate portfolio, restructure your debt, and give you the liquidity to survive. We were going to save your family legacy. We were going to do this not because you deserved it, but because your company employs 2,300 people whose jobs shouldn't depend on your family's cruelty. Because your real estate holdings include affordable housing for 6,000 families who deserve stable homes. Because despite your personal failures, the Harrington infrastructure still served communities that needed it. Victor's voice broke. Then why? Why cancel it? Those people you're talking about, they'll lose everything. No, Naomi corrected. They won't. Because I'm not canceling the help. I'm just not giving it to you. Within the hour, Helix Meridian will be making direct offers to your employees. We'll acquire your profitable divisions, protect those jobs, and transfer them into competent management. We'll purchase your residential properties and convert them into truly affordable housing, not the pretend affordable units you've been neglecting. We'll take everything worth saving from your empire and save it. Without you. The implications crashed over the room. Like a wave, the Harringtons wouldn't just lose their deal. They'd lose their company, their legacy, everything. Evan stumbled forward, wine sloshing from his glass. You can't do this. This is our family's business. 3 generations of Harringtons built this company. Into the ground, Naomi finished. 3 generations of Harringtons built privilege and called it business. You inherited wealth and confused it with skill. You've been coasting on a reputation earned by better people who came before you, and when that wasn't enough, you borrowed against everything until there was nothing left but debt and delusion. She looked at each of them in turn. And when you had the chance to show even basic human decency to a stranger at your party, you chose cruelty. You chose to humiliate someone for your own entertainment. That's who you are when nobody's watching who matters. Margaret was crying now, mascara running down her perfectly made-up face. Real tears, not the practiced kind she used for charity event speeches. Please, we didn't know who you were. If we'd just known your position, your importance. That's the problem, Margaret. Naomi's voice was soft now, which somehow made it more devastating. You knew I was a human being. That should have been enough. You shouldn't need to know someone's net worth before treating them with basic respect. She pulled out her phone one more time and composed an email as she spoke. I'm now sending a message to every CEO, board member, and investor in my network. It includes the security footage from tonight, a full financial breakdown of the Harrington Circle's real situation, and a recommendation that they avoid any business dealings with your family. Not for business reasons, for moral ones. Naomi looked around the room at the gathered guests, these titans of industry who'd watched her humiliation with amusement. How many of you recorded what happened tonight? How many of you laughed? How many of you saw a fellow human being treated with contempt and did nothing? Shame rippled through the crowd. Phones disappeared into purses and pockets. People suddenly found the floor fascinating. Here's what I want you all to understand, Naomi continued. Money is power, yes. But power reveals character, it doesn't create it. Tonight, every person in this room revealed their character. And I'll remember that, every single one of you. She walked toward the exit, the crowd parting before her. But at the doorway, she stopped and turned back one final time. Victor, 15 years ago I came to your office with a proposal. You rejected it without even reading the full presentation. You told me to be more realistic, to accept my limitations. Do you remember that? Victor's face showed he did. The memory was clearly flooding back. That rejection taught me something valuable, Naomi said. It taught me that some people will never see your worth until you're standing on top of the mountain they said you couldn't climb. So I climbed it. I built everything you said was unrealistic. And now I'm standing on that mountain, looking down at you drowning in the valley of your own creation, and I'm choosing not to throw you a rope. Not because I'm cruel, she continued, but because you need to learn what I learned 15 years ago. That your name, your connections, your inherited wealth mean nothing without integrity. And tonight, you proved you have none. She looked at Margaret. You asked if I was someone's assistant. The answer is no. I'm not anyone's assistant. I'm the person who was going to save your family. And now I'm the person who's going to watch you save yourselves. If you can. With that, Naomi Brooks walked out of the Harrington party with her head high, her dignity intact, and her $5 billion still in her account. Behind her, the Harrington empire began to crumble in real time. Phones were ringing. Investors were calling. Word was spreading through financial networks at the speed of digital light. By midnight, the family would be ruined. And every bit of it was deserved. The sun rose over Manhattan, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Beautiful, indifferent to the human dramas playing out below. In her office on the 42nd floor of the Helix Meridian building, Naomi Brooks stood at the window watching the city wake up. She hadn't slept, but she didn't feel tired. Behind her Her desk was covered with documents, reports, and phone messages. The fallout from last night's party was spreading like wildfire through the business world, and everyone wanted a piece of the story. Her assistant, Jennifer Park, knocked softly and entered with a tablet. "Ms. Brooks, I have the morning summary you requested." "Go ahead," Naomi said, still looking out at the city. Jennifer scrolled through her notes. The Harrington Circle stock opened this morning down 73% before trading was halted. Their major creditors are calling in loans. 3 of their board members resigned overnight. The family's personal assets are being frozen pending bankruptcy proceedings. And their employees. Helix Meridian's acquisition team has made offers to all 2,300 employees. So far, 87% have accepted. We're guaranteeing their salaries, benefits, and pension contributions. The transition should be complete within 2 weeks. Naomi nodded. This was what mattered. Real people with real lives who'd been working for a failing company through no fault of their own. They deserved protection. The residential properties. We've acquired 14 of their 17 housing complexes. Rent reductions are being implemented immediately, averaging 32% across all units. Renovations are scheduled to begin next month. The tenants are being notified today. Good. What else? Jennifer hesitated. There's been significant media coverage. The video from last night has been viewed over 40 million times. The response is mixed. Show me. Jennifer pulled up social media on the large screen across from Naomi's desk. The footage was everywhere. Videos from multiple angles showing the wine spill, the laughter, the humiliation. But also showing Naomi's phone call, the cancellation of $5 billion, the look on the Harrington family's faces as their world collapsed. The comments section was a battlefield. Some praised her. This is exactly what needed to happen. Respect is earned, not owed. Others criticized. She ruined a family over a party incident. That's excessive. More defended. They publicly humiliated her and recorded it for fun. She just showed them consequences. And some stayed neutral. Both sides went too far. But the Harringtons started it. Jennifer cleared her throat. There's also been a request for a meeting. From the Harrington family. Naomi turned from the window. Already. They're downstairs in the lobby. They've been there since 6 a.m. They're asking, and I quote, for 5 minutes of mercy. Naomi was silent for a long moment. Then, send them up. The Harrington family looked nothing like they had the night before. No designer clothes, no diamonds, no confidence. They wore simple clothing, carried no entourage, and moved with the defeated shuffle of people who'd lost everything overnight. Victor's face was haggard, aged 10 years in 10 hours. Margaret's eyes were red from crying. Evan looked like he hadn't slept, his characteristic arrogance replaced by hollow shock. Lydia's polished exterior had cracked completely, revealing the frightened woman beneath. They stood in Naomi's office like prisoners awaiting sentencing. Naomi sat behind her desk, her expression neutral. You wanted 5 minutes. Start talking. Victor stepped forward. When he spoke, his voice was broken. Ms. Brooks, we came to beg. Not for our company. Not for our money. For a chance to make this right. Make what right? Naomi asked. The decades of looking down on people you considered inferior. The casual cruelty you practiced as a lifestyle. The humiliation you inflicted on me for entertainment. Which part are you hoping to make right? Margaret spoke, her voice trembling. All of it. We were wrong. Completely, inexcusably wrong. What we did to you last night was unforgivable. But Ms. Brooks, I'm asking anyway. Please, forgive us. Why should I? The question hung in the air, unanswered because there was no good answer. Evan found his voice, though it was nothing like his previous confident boom. Because we're human beings who made a terrible mistake and were willing to do anything, anything at all, to prove we can change. Naomi leaned back in her chair. Anything is a big word. Do you know what it cost me to get here? To this office, to this position. She stood and walked around her desk, moving closer to them. I was 9 years old when I decided I wanted to build things. Cities, systems, infrastructure that would help people. My mother was cleaning offices at night to keep us fed. I studied in public libraries because we couldn't afford books. I got scholarships because there was no other way. And every single step, I fought against people who looked at me and saw less than I was. I was rejected from 12 investment groups before I found one willing to back my first project, Naomi continued. Do you know why? My proposals were solid. My projections were accurate. But investors would look at me and see a young black woman from a poor neighborhood, and they'd decide I wasn't worth the risk. Your family was one of those rejections, Victor. Victor's face crumbled. I remember. God help me, I remember now. You told me to be realistic. To accept my limitations. Those words almost destroyed me. I went home that night and looked at my mother, still in her cleaning uniform, exhausted from her shift, and I almost gave up. Almost convinced myself you were right. But I didn't, Naomi said, her voice stronger now. I built my company anyway. I proved every doubt wrong. I turned that rejection into fuel and I succeeded beyond anything you told me was realistic. And I did it with integrity. With respect for every person who worked for me. With dignity for everyone I encountered. Because I knew what it felt like to be treated as worthless. And I swore I would never make anyone else feel that way. She looked at each of them. Last night, you made me feel exactly what I'd spent my entire life trying to escape. You looked at me and saw nothing. You treated me like I was invisible, like I was entertainment, like I was garbage to be removed. And you did it publicly, proudly, without a moment's hesitation. Tears were streaming down Margaret's face now. We're sorry. We're so deeply, truly sorry. Are you? Naomi asked. Or are you sorry you got caught? Sorry that the person you humiliated turned out to have power over you. If I'd actually been a waitress or an assistant, would you be here apologizing? The silence that followed was answer enough. Lydia spoke for the first time, her voice small. No, we wouldn't be. We'd have forgotten about it by morning and never thought about you again. That's the truth. The honesty, raw and painful, hung in the air. At least you're being truthful now, Naomi said. That's something. But truth without change is just confession. Words without action are just noise. So here's what I'm going to offer you, and it's the only offer you'll get. The Harrington family leaned forward, desperate hope flickering in their eyes. You want forgiveness. You want a second chance. Then you're going to earn it. Not from me. From the people whose lives you've impacted. Naomi walked back to her desk and pulled out a folder. Helix Meridian is launching a new community development program. We're going to renovate the affordable housing units we acquired from you. We're going to build community centers in underserved neighborhoods. We're going to create job training programs for people who've been locked out of opportunities. She handed the folder to Victor. You and your family are going to work on these projects. Not as executives, not as supervisors, as laborers. You'll work alongside the people you've ignored your entire lives. You'll learn their names. You'll hear their stories. You'll understand what it means to build something with your own hands. You'll do this for 1 full year, Naomi continued. 50 hours a week, minimum wage, same conditions as everyone else on the crew. No special treatment, no press coverage, no social media posts about your redemption journey. Just work. Real, hard, honest work. Evan's voice was barely a whisper. And if we do this, what then? If you complete the year with genuine effort and genuine change, I'll write a letter of recommendation for you. Not to restore your company, that's gone. But to help you find legitimate work. To give you a chance to rebuild your lives based on actual merit instead of inherited privilege. But, Naomi's voice hardened, if you quit, if you complain, if you show even a hint of the attitude you displayed last night, I'll make sure every employer in every industry knows exactly who you are. You'll spend the rest of your lives struggling the way I once struggled, except without the skills and determination that got me through it. Victor looked at his family. At his wife, his son, his daughter. At the ruins of everything they'd built their identity on. We accept, he said. All of us. We accept your terms. Good, Naomi said. Report to the construction site in Brooklyn on Monday morning at 7 a.m. The address is in that folder. Don't be late. As they turned to leave, Naomi called out one more time. And Victor, that rejection letter you sent me 15 years ago. I kept it, framed it in my office. For years, I looked at it every day as motivation. Victor turned back, shame written across his face. I'm taking it down today, Naomi said. Because I don't need it anymore. I proved everything I needed to prove. Now it's your turn to prove something. Not to me, to yourselves. 3 months later, Naomi received a video message on her phone. She almost deleted it, thinking it was spam, but the sender's name made her pause, Lydia Harrington. She opened it. The video showed a construction site. The same Brooklyn housing project Naomi had assigned the Harrington family to. In the frame, covered in dust and sweat, were all 4 Harringtons. But they looked different, thinner, harder, real. They were working alongside a diverse crew, hammering, carrying, building. And they were laughing. Not the cruel laughter from the party. Real laughter. The kind that comes from shared struggle and earned respect. Lydia's voice came over the video. Ms. Brooks, I'm sending this not to ask for anything, but to thank you. 3 months ago, you gave us something we'd never had. A purpose beyond our name. A chance to earn respect instead of expecting it. We're learning what it means to build something real. The video cut to Victor, his hands calloused and rough, talking with a young crew member who was teaching him proper technique. The younger man was patient, respectful, and clearly didn't know or care who Victor used to be. We still have 9 months left, Lydia's voice continued. And honestly, we need them. We need more time to understand what we've been our whole lives. To learn who we could become. Thank you for not giving up on us completely. Thank you for showing us that consequences can be teachers, not just punishments. The video ended. Naomi sat in her office for a long time, thinking. She didn't respond to the message. Not yet. Words were easy. Time would tell if the change was real. But for the first time since that night at the party, she felt something other than anger. Not forgiveness, not yet. But possibility. Maybe redemption was real. Maybe people could change, if the consequences were severe enough and the lessons were clear enough. Or maybe they couldn't. Time would tell. 6 months after that, Naomi received a call from the site supervisor managing the Brooklyn project. Ms. Brooks, I thought you should know. The Harrington family just completed their full year. They actually stayed an extra month to finish a section they'd started. They wanted to see it through. How were they? Naomi asked. Honestly, they were good, really good. They worked hard, learned fast, and treated everyone with respect. The crew actually threw them a going-away party. Said they'd miss having them around. Naomi was quiet for a moment. Thank you for letting me know. That evening, she sat down and wrote 4 letters of recommendation. Honest letters that acknowledged the Harringtons' past mistakes but also recognized their genuine growth. Letters that gave them a chance, not a guarantee. She mailed them the next day. A week later, Margaret Harrington sent a handwritten thank you note. Not an email, not a text, an actual letter, written in careful script on simple paper. Dear Ms. Brooks, thank you for the letter of recommendation. But more than that, thank you for teaching us what we should have learned decades ago. That every person deserves respect. That privilege is not the same as worth. That real value comes from what you build, not what you inherit. We will never forget the lesson you taught us, or the grace you showed us in the end. We don't expect forgiveness, but we hope that someday, when you see the work we do and the people we've become, you might believe we learned what you set out to teach us. With genuine gratitude and deep respect, the Harrington family. Naomi folded the letter and placed it in her desk drawer. In the same drawer where she'd kept their rejection letter for 15 years. 2 letters. 2 different versions of the same family. One that destroyed and one that might, someday, build. She didn't frame this one. She didn't need to. Some lessons don't need to be displayed. They just need to be learned. Epilogue. 2 years after that night at the party, Naomi Brooks stood on the stage at a business leadership conference. She'd been asked to speak about success, about building a company from nothing, about overcoming obstacles. But when she looked out at the audience, filled with young faces of every color and background, she decided to tell a different story. 2 years ago, she began, I attended a party where I was humiliated, degraded, and treated as worthless. I was refused water. I had wine spilled on me deliberately. I was laughed at and recorded and told I didn't belong. The audience leaned forward, captivated. In that moment, I had a choice, Naomi continued. I could walk away with my dignity but let the cruelty go unanswered. Or I could use the power I'd spent my life building to teach a lesson about consequences. I chose consequences, she said. I canceled a $5 billion deal. I dismantled a family empire. I watched privileged people lose everything they'd taken for granted. And I'd do it again. But, she paused, I also chose possibility. I gave them a chance to change, to learn, to become better people. Not for them. For all the people they would interact with in the future. Because cruelty is a cycle, and cycles can be broken. She looked at the young faces in the audience. Some of you have been told you're not enough. That you're too different, too poor, too young, too whatever. Some of you have been rejected and humiliated and told to be realistic about your limitations. I'm here to tell you that those limitations are lies. Build anyway, succeed anyway, and when you get to the top, when you have the power to punish or to teach, choose wisely. Because the goal isn't revenge. It's justice. And justice means giving people the consequences they've earned, but also the chances they need to become who they should have been all along. The audience erupted in applause. But Naomi wasn't finished. And to those of you who've never been rejected, never been humiliated, never been told you don't belong, pay attention. Because the person you dismissed today might be the person who holds your future tomorrow. Treat everyone with respect, not because of who they might be, but because of who they already are. Human beings who deserve dignity. That's the lesson, Naomi concluded. Not that the powerful will fall, though sometimes they will. Not that the humble will rise, though sometimes they do. The lesson is simpler and harder than that. The lesson is, see people. Really see them. Because you never know who you're looking at until it's too late. She stepped off the stage to thunderous applause. As she walked backstage, her phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Victor Harrington. Watching your speech online. You're right about everything. Thank you for seeing us as people capable of change, even when we'd proven we weren't. My family and I are working at a homeless shelter now. Turns out, building things is more satisfying than inheriting them. Who knew? Victor. Naomi smiled and put her phone away. She didn't respond. She didn't need to. Some stories don't need neat endings. They just need truth. And the truth was this. Respect costs nothing, but disrespect can cost everything. Dignity is not negotiable, and sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is not destroy your enemies, but give them the chance to stop being enemies at all. That was the lesson. That was the story. And it was a story that would be told for years to come, whispered in boardrooms and business schools, a reminder that power without compassion is tyranny, but compassion without accountability is enabling. Naomi Brooks had found the balance. She'd shown both the sword and the hand that offers help after the battle. And in doing so, she'd changed not just 4 lives, but thousands who heard the story and learned that consequences and chances aren't opposites. They're both sides of the same coin called justice. The moral of this story: treat every person with respect and dignity, not because of their status, wealth, or position, but because they are human beings deserving of basic kindness. You never know who you're really talking to, and more importantly, you should never need to know someone's worth before treating them well. Power is a responsibility, not a weapon. Use it wisely to create justice, not just revenge. Change is possible, but only through genuine effort and real consequences. Forgiveness is earned through action, not just words. Remember, the person you disrespect today might hold your tomorrow in their hands. But even if they don't, they still deserve your respect simply because they exist. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button, like this video, and type respect in the comments. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, every person you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. Choose kindness, choose dignity, choose justice. Thank you for watching. See you in the next story.